All right. I think we're gonna have a bunch of new people this meeting, so why don't we kick it off and we start with introductions for people who are new. So if you haven't been here before, just in like 30 seconds or so, just give us um, who you are. Doesn't have to be your real name, could just be your username, and what has brought you to OMI. We can start with um, AI. Did you catch that or did you just join?
Yeah, I just joined. Yeah, so that's my avatar name in various virtual worlds. I call myself I Austin. Real name Austin Tate. I'm at the University of Edinburgh. Um, so just joining in, and I thought because I was pleased to see you were going to do a summary of what's been happening with OMI in this meeting. So that's my purpose for being here to try to do a catch up because there's a lot of channels on Discord.
Oh yeah, definitely are. Perfect. Well, welcome,
Thank you.
uh, Chief Iolo.
Yes, sir. Chief Alo. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, yeah, can hear you loud and clear.
Okay.
Welcome.
This is really my first time like with any of this stuff. I just seen the meeting, so I just joined just to kind of get an idea of what's going on with Discord and everything. Um, yeah, I'm really just new to everything, so I'm just observing and listening.
Well, welcome,
Thank you.
Kriya.
Yeah, that's me. My name is Rick. I am currently working on a metaverse project with my associate here, Zero. And, we heard what you guys are doing, and it sounds very compelling. Because, we want this to be a decentralized platform for sure. And we think that what you guys are doing is necessary.
Welcome, welcome. Uh, Lost Sherpa. Oh, we can't hear you. All right, I think we're gonna come back to you. Fan.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
So, I've been in past meetings, but last time I was so jet lagged that I couldn't introduce myself. But I'm currently working on a lot of projects. I've had experiences on a lot of the tech sectors. Not really anything in depth, but I know of, just surface level knowledge, so I can be there as a bridge builder, sort of. I'm here for perspective, really, to help out in any way I can, and just to ensure the metaverse is built um, just a little bit earlier.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Uh, Sean G. Man.
Hi, Robert. How you doing?
Hey, how are
I
you?
am not too bad. I'm a CEO of RP1. Actually, I was on a panel recently with Evo, and we're actually building the network server architecture for potentially the future metaverse. What that really means is there's a massive limitation in network server architecture that can handle multiple users, like Facebook or recently said they could put about 16 people in a virtual world. And we're doing a demo where we're putting 64,000 people in a single virtual world in WebXR, excuse me, on one single server. So we're dealing with the sustainability and scalability of the metaverse.
Very, very cool.
That's cool.
Would love to talk to you more about that. Uh,
Super cool.
ZRO.
Sure. Hey everyone. Hi. My name is Teely and I work at Zero. Zero is building a, a part of the metaverse, and we have a pretty big team of dedicated people helping us to really build that out. My colleague Rick is here, who introduced himself earlier, and we're really excited to be here to really kind of understand like where things are really headed in the metaverse and all of the people that are in the space pushing it forward. So thank you for having us.
Yeah, welcome. Christine, I see you just joined. We're doing short intros. If you'd like to give us a little blurb about yourself and what brought you here.
Thank you. I'm Christine Perret, and I focus only on augmented reality. And I've been hanging around this space about 15 years, and I'm focused a lot on interoperability and standards. And I wanted to see what these weekly meetings are about. Thank you.
Very cool. Well, welcome everyone. This is our first meeting of the new year. It's our 37th meeting. We've been doing this since last, I think, April. Um, and yeah, how this generally works is if you look at the voice channels, there's a text channel also in that category, OMI meeting chat. So that's where we're mostly doing um, sharing links and doing text chat in the middle of the meeting. So right now I'm going to paste the agenda over there, and you can see, you can follow through, click on all the links as I do as we're going through this. Um, and so one thing that we could really use each meeting is someone to take notes. Generally, we've been just doing that here in the um, meeting discussion, and just like leaving comments when there's things that we need to follow up on, or things that other people would need to know. So if people want to add to this discussion on GitHub, that would be super useful. I'm already recording, so there's going. I've been really bad at uploading videos to YouTube, but I'm gonna declare bankruptcy for a sec. They're still here. I still have all the old recordings, and eventually I'll get around to, or someone else can help me edit those down. But this will be the first one that we upload in a long time, so we'll do that for archival sake. Okay, so Jesse, do you want to take us through some of the working group meetings?
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome everybody. I know I didn't get everybody in chat, but it was really great to see so many new names, some that I know and some that I do not yet. So looking forward to that. So we operate with a working group format, predominantly because we are a highly collaborative group. There's a lot of different stakeholders, a lot of different interests, a lot of different reasons for being here, right? People have different objectives, and we talk about this almost every week. But what's really what unites us is that we all believe in a open and interoperable metaverse, rather than trying to space race each other and compete to present, the one true answer for interoperability. We've come together and we work through that together and implement together, uh, always open to iteration, and in order to be able to sustain that level of innovation with such a massive goal, right? We break down our work into different working groups. If the metaverse is supposed to be for anybody, then therefore anybody can theoretically add value to the metaverse. So it's not just development work. There we have a fiscal development group, we have a website group, and a number of others. If you have any interest in getting involved in a group, groups also have their own working agreements. Some have them in place, some are just very new groups and haven't quite gotten there yet. But we understand that it's not just the US building the metaverse, right? So we have folks from all around the world. And so you may find that some working groups meet early in the day, some meet late in the day. Getting involved is just as simple as reaching out to members of that group. And if you need, an additional time, I think that's a pretty good problem for us to have if we need to have multiple time zone meetings for different groups. But that's worked out at the working group level. All right, so NRANT, we have several active working groups right now, some that are new that were just recently voted in, and some that have been working for a little while. The website working group did meet, I believe, yesterday. Is Shadow or Jesse or Robert? I'm not sure if you were there last night. Is anybody here that was in that meeting last night? Is there any updates? I believe I just saw Shadow shared out
Yeah.
an update.
Yeah, so the website's pretty much done now. In terms of the design, we just want to make sure we confirm on the technical implementation. So if there's a developer or developers that want to implement this, please contact us on the OMI website channel, so we can figure out, exactly what we want to do there. We had a couple, folks put different ideas up, but we need to really confirm that, and then once we do that, we can get this updated website up. If you haven't seen it already, feel free to check it out in the OMI website channel. Um, and the what's it meeting chats channel, I just shared a link to the Airtable where you can submit your own media. So if there's any media, it could be articles, videos, podcasts, projects, pictures, any media at all that you want to put on the website, feel free to put it there, and we'll get that working.
Yeah, I'm just gonna
Yeah,
pop
and
up
the
a
group
screenshot
recently
of that.
finished the design for for mobile and the new. Well, it's responsive, I believe, in general, but
Right.
the new website design, which is going to be implemented shortly. Excited for that. Yeah, I mean, messaging is a big part, right? And this has been a long time coming. I think we've been running pretty bare bones lately, but that's the beauty of iteration, right? And so if you are a designer or somebody, a product person, somebody who just a marketing person, content person, there's a place for we save us from ourselves. We need all the help that we can get, and the website group does meet, I think, every other Tuesday right
Yeah.
now. Right. Cool. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. We also have the GLTF working group as well. Well, the second bullet you'll see here is our OMI Weekly Meeting on Wednesdays. This is essentially like an open forum, all hands. We kind of talk high level. We do have important discussions and votes occasionally. Our process for voting is you have to have been here, I believe, 2 consecutive meetings in order to participate in a vote. And that's just to obviously prevent in the future potential bad actors swaying votes for nefarious purposes, right? Like, we'll get to that bridge when we get to it, but at present moment, we haven't had any issues like that. But that was the purpose of that. The GLTF Extensions Working Group is actually, we do have a couple updates right now. I don't know if Robert, if you want to, or Fire, if you want to share any updates first related to that group.
I can do that, and also I can just give a brief summary of some of the works that we've been doing here. So GLTF is a 3D file format, which is kind of caught on as the standard for 3D portable media. It's kind of like the JPEG of 3D. And our working group has been trying to develop some extensions to this 3D format that allow you to do new and exciting things that are useful for metaverse applications, for virtual worlds in general. The first one that we've been working on is the audio emitter extension, which allows you to put spatial audio into 3D scenes, which is super useful if you're building like immersive worlds or if you're building 3D art that has audio in it. It's just a core thing that we need to be able to add to these sorts of assets. So our last meeting was right before Christmas. We had one hack session afterwards, which I think Tim can say more about later if there's any updates there. But you can find out how to get involved in the GLTF extensions repository or in the group by just clicking on that link that I just posted. Oop, wrong channel. Let me put that in the OMI meeting chat. Our last meeting, we just went over a lot of the goals for this year. So we want to finish ratifying the OMI audio emitter extension. We have like a 4-stage process, which kind of mirrors the process set in place for JavaScript. JavaScript kind of operates in a similar 4-stage process. And it's basically just reliant on a couple pieces of work to get done. So we have to explain the extension at a high level, which Anthony, who's here, just submitted a PR to do most of that. And then we also have a Blender add-on that we're working on, which is almost there. Just need to finish that up, and then this will graduate to a stage 3 proposal, 3 out of 4. The last remaining thing will just be getting a second implementation of this. So we have one for 3JS, and the platform that I'm working on at Element, Third Room will be using this, and we want to get this into more platforms out there, more engines as well. So there's some work going on to support these extensions inside of Unity and Godot. There's a lot of groundwork that needs to be laid in order for us to do that. So we've been kind of pushing forward on those fronts. Other things that we want to work on is VRM, which is a avatar format. We want to make sure that it's possible to author animations and then have them applied to avatars, so that you can have like your game or experience. You bring in your portable avatar that you use across all apps, and now that app can play animations on top of it, or an item within that game can provide an animation to, say, drink a potion or swing a sword, or have an emote that you can collect, things like that. So that's something that we'd like to get done this year. And if you have any ideas for additional extensions, we have a thread going on in the GLTF extensions repository that have like a lot of different ideas for things. I know that someone right before the break was talking about getting some collisions as a extension fairly soon, and I think that's really possible. So yeah, this is going. We have our meeting tomorrow at 2:30 Pacific, and we'd love to see you there.
Hi, this is Christine.
Hello.
So the Kronos group, which is the body that defines GLTF and the extensions, has a procedure for nominating new extensions and developing extensions, and then you submit them. And the Kronos group then votes on them and so forth. How do you plan to, work within that structure?
Right. Yeah. So we have 2 members of this group that are in talks with Neil Trevitt, who's the president of Kronos. So that would be myself and Fire. I'm still working out some legal stuff within my company. They're not a Kronos member, so we have to like do some stuff to make sure that we can participate. But how it's basically working is Kronos is interested in things that the broader GLTF community can use, and we're really focused on a subset that are really more applied to virtual worlds. So how we've kind of framed this is like we're a place to do experimentation on new and exciting things in this space, whereas Cronus is like working on things for the very broad spectrum of things that GLTF can do. So you'll probably see more things around avatars, around network interoperability, around I don't know, features that are very specific to our use cases. This audio emitter one is actually one that we want to, after it's finished being developed here, propose as a EXT or KHR. Those are the Kronos official extensions. We want to propose it there next. But we're kind of working on it here. We're going to finalize our vendor extension. That doesn't require going through the Kronos board. We already have our vendor extension, our vendor prefix registered with them. And then we'll be able to complete that process more formally within Kronos afterwards.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great question.
Yeah, it was a great question. Next up, we have some upcoming meetings this week. We have the Omi-chan Avatar Working Group, which has been the placeholder name for the creation of our avatar. It was approved as a working group, but again, it was around the holiday time, so the group opted to meet after the start of the year. I'm not sure, is Nova on the call? If not, then the placeholder time that was set is for this Saturday, the 8th at 12:30. By the way, the GLTF group meets on Thursdays every week at 2:30. If you want to get involved, and the Pacific, 3:30 Pacific, 2:30 Pacific, 2:30 to 3:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern. I usually use UTC too, so we'll see that. You'll probably we on Discord we try to use UTC, and it usually will auto format for you. But I guess I didn't do that here. And the next group, we have another group that was approved, which is the WASM working group, and that group is newly forming. Has not had their first meeting yet, but there are a number of people in this group that are going to be a part of that. I'm not sure if any of you would like to touch on it, kind of talk about what the WASM group's going to be, because it's very exciting.
Yeah, what is the WASM working group?
I mean, I can explain it, or Chris, do you want to do it?
Yeah, sure. So WASM, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, is a new sort of bytecode format that arose out of work around JavaScript engines. People wanted to have a really fast common build target for being able to take programs that are written in languages that aren't JavaScript, like C, for example, where there's like a really large body of existing library code, and run those programs on the web really easily. But one of the nice side effects of that is we started to see this rise of runtimes for WASM that aren't specific to the web, that can be sort of modularly embedded in other programs. So WASM is starting to take on sort of a life of its own as a common portable runtime environment for code that just, whether it's C or Rust or, there's other languages that are like targeted to it specifically, like assembly script is one that's really popular right now. Regardless of what you're writing your language in, it creates this portable substrate in which your program can run. So this is kind of interesting from an interoperable metaverse perspective, because it gives us this opportunity to say, what if we could have a common target for interactive code that works against a scene graph or works against a 3D model that gets loaded into memory. So the WASM group is being created to explore the possibility space here, to see where there's common ground between different existing engines, hypothetical use cases, various things like that. Basically, if you're interested in how do we make it possible for an avatar to go across multiple worlds, and also for that avatar to have really rich interactions across all those worlds, that's what this group is for.
It's kind of like creating a universal translator.
Yeah.
No matter how it was created, it can be understood.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's sort of us finding our common. Where's the common language between all of us? And WASM is one candidate for that. So
interesting.
Awesome.
This is Christine again. The same question for here. How will you, or do you, interface with the W3C WASM work?
So I can take this one as well. So we are a W3C community group, and so this one will be very strictly ran through that process. A couple other pieces of, well, that's not decided yet, but in my opinion, it kind of has to do that in order to effectively um, do this well. But basically, yeah, so there is a WASM working group. There's also immersive web working group within W3C. A community group is not as strict as to who can participate. So this allows us to have, greater membership. Um, and same thing, we can kind of experiment within here, but we're on track to become part of this standards track where we can actually get this thing published if we decide to do this as a W3C community group. I hope that we'll be able to attract some people from the WASM working group as well as just larger names within the WASM community. I think it's going to be a little bit tough to do that right at the beginning. I have reached out to a couple people. We'll see how that goes. But I think we need to have this first meeting to like really set our goals and to decide as a group that we want to be under this strict W3C sort of standards body before we go further. The other thing is I proposed a slight change to the time that Adam Frisbee proposed here. So I'm proposing the 11th, which is next Tuesday. I believe next Tuesday, right? Yeah. Next Tuesday at 9 a.m. So the same time as this call, but a day earlier. And it seems like we've got 4 people able to make it then. So if you are available then or are interested, definitely chime in. If you're not available, also like chime in and say we can find an alternate time maybe. And that's that. I think this is already, yeah, this is posted in OMI meeting chat. So if you click on the introductions and planning our first meeting, you can find that there.
Yeah, and as these events get like finalized with dates and times, we usually are pretty good about adding them to the shared OMI calendar. And so that link is available here in today's notes as well. If you want to subscribe to that, then you're able to see when the different working groups are meeting. Some working groups don't have regular like meeting cadence, and that's part of that working group's working agreement. As more people are able to get involved in some of them, you may see more formalities, but in the meantime, keep in mind everyone gives what they can when they can, and we're all trying our best. But if you see a way to add value, please, by all means, get involved. There are other working groups, so I tried to remember them. Like a lot of them aren't necessarily active yet. That's why it's not that I'm forgetting people. It's just they're either not meeting regularly or not like completely defined. But we're working on making it easier to get involved in these groups. A lot of them, again, a lot of these, if I did miss any, please feel free to add them here in this list so that we could try to get them collated in one place.
Well,
but I think those are the active ones.
We haven't heard from Evo, our third chair, yet. And Evo, do you want to give a rundown of the Metaverse mapping project or any of the other groups that we haven't mentioned so far?
Briefly, so interoperator, I think, I'm so sorry, and my apologies for not being able to be here for the first few minutes of this meeting. Interoperator will meet occasionally, but not regularly, I think, and that's the team that needs to sort out types of partnerships and relationships. And so there's some work there to do for sure. Mapping had been meeting regularly on Tuesdays prior to the new year. We need to find a new time. And so that is currently where that one is. It's been happening in fits and starts as we move things over to Airtable. I'm trying to remember. There was a third one, but I'm trying to forget. I'm trying to remember which one it is right now. I'm sorry.
Well, there's the OMI Chan, but we're kind of just waiting on Nova for. Well, we do have a time for this. It's Saturday.
Saturdays, right?
Yep.
And I believe there are some collaborators who've been coming for that, but I have not been in there.
Yep. And for that one, it's kind of creating a test asset and avatar that we can use to kind of both like advertise OMI and interoperability, um, openness, and also be our mascot for that. But then also test a whole bunch of these interoperability experiments. So if we have avatar specific standards for GLTF or this WASM group, we can apply it to that avatar model.
Right. So that virtual being will be used for both storytelling and for relationship building down the line as well.
Mm-hmm. So if you're an artist or just interested in defining what this avatar looks like, you can join in then.
Yeah, a lot of exciting stuff coming up, which brings us to one more important point. We did like a different format the last 3 weeks, so if you were able to attend, then you already know. For new folks, we did something called Lean Coffee. So if you want to look at some of like our previous week's notes and agendas, there should be a link that lets you go in there and see kind of what that format looks like. But it was more of like an open question forum, and then we voted to prioritize what topics we wanted to talk about, and then time boxed and had conversations about different pieces. But one of the big things that came up that we wanted to make sure that we did as a group was having a discussion about what our strategy looks like what we hope to accomplish for 2022 overall. And so there's a couple of really important discussions coming up that I believe should be had as a group and not in isolation. I should say we believe, it's not just I that believes this. And so there's a quick reminder that the next chair election is going to be on February 2nd. We set out, actually, the next link is a new discussion, which is related. I don't know if you want to click that. But we wanted to open it up to the community, and obviously this is a huge conversation, so we might want to run a workshop. We might want to have just a bit more heads up than to spring it on a weekly conversation today. But like to be able to really be intentional about this and talk about what we think the future of OMI looks like as well, right? Like when we set out, we acknowledge that no system's perfect and that we're going to iterate. So we wanted to open it up so that we can have a strategic conversation about kind of what we think our goals are, review our core values, like make sure like, do we want to align the future structure around core values? Do we want more chairs? Do we want to have 3 W3C chairs or maybe 1 W3C chair and have other chairs that do other things? Like this is going to be the time that we should have that discussion. Because then the next election is when we'll go into our full length term, which will be 1-year terms. We did a 3-month and then a 6-month, and then we're transitioning into 1-year terms next. And so if we're going to do it for a year, let's just see if there's anything that we want to change. So NRANT, obviously, again, I'm not going to spring this on everyone right now, but the discussions here, if you have thoughts, I recommend you review it and maybe add some comments and thoughts, things that you think are important to stay mindful of. And we can maybe plan that discussion for next week or the following week and have a real discussion about that as a group. Any comments or questions about it?
I think it would be nice to start the discussion as soon as possible because we only have a couple weeks until this election. So if people want to nominate themselves or others, we need to make sure that that's all figured out before we do it.
Right.
Sorry that this is kind of last minute. Like even a month is kind of like a short period of time to like discuss leadership structure and things like that. But it just made sense to do it now.
Yes. And I just want to add to this that we have a ton of fantastic leaders here, and we want to do our best at continuing to cultivate great leadership across the board and enabling and empowering you. And so we might absolutely need more chairs just to make that work as a larger community with with growth happening, we might need more leaders here. I just want to put that out there for everyone as we're thinking about who we want to become and what type of organization we want to grow into.
Yeah, well said.
Cool.
Okay, thank you for that time. I'm going to be one of the goals that I set for during that retro period is that I think we should have scheduled retros maybe once a month, so that it doesn't, if you have like a maybe controversial opinion or a deep, like, you really want a forum to be able to give feedback but don't want to be seen as complaining, like knowing that there's a retrospective plan, a place where you can come and share what went well, what might not have gone well in the last month, and what we should do differently is critical to iteration. So I think that's something important that we should consider adopting. And the second thing is, we're like gonna try not to groom our backlog like on every Wednesday meeting, right? Because that can get a little bit mundane. Um, so we're gonna try to do like a scheduled like backlog refinement session, maybe once every 2 weeks or once every week, that's open for folks to attend, so that we can see what's in flight overall across all of OMI, and just kind of be able to stay organized and intentional with the work that we're doing.
All right. I think that's all we have planned so far. So, the last item on here is we got open floor for the rest of the meeting. We got about 20 minutes left. And so if you have any questions about the things we've discussed, about or comments about like what you'd like to see out of OMI this year, that would be a great time to just comment on that.
Do you guys have any sort of compiled information about the things that you have been working on so that we can kind of look over and see if there's anything that pertains to our project that we can actively work to incorporate or provide feedback on?
Yeah, we try to work in public as much as possible. A point that was made a few times actually early in this meeting that is important to touch on is like Discord is like drinking from the fire hose, right? Like there's so many different channels, and it can be intimidating or difficult to know where to apply yourself or get involved. So we do actually try to work in public on GitHub as much as possible. We have an OMI GitHub strategy. I believe it's in our README, but I'll make sure I share that link, that talks about how we use discussions, how we use backlogs, how we manage all of these things. And it's theoretically, because again, we iterate as we go. But I try to keep it up to date and current. So most of our work that's been done, to the best of our ability, should be in discussions and in issues on the backlog. And as we refine these processes, I think we'll get better and better about archiving this. The other best way to get involved, the other best way to get up to speed or compiled information is to go directly through the working group. So like some of the folks who are in the GLTF working group might be able to point you through their repos, into you. Actually, I think the GLTF working group takes like meeting notes every week, right, Robert?
Yeah.
So
So
those are a good example.
yeah, if
That's
you go to
probably
our
the best way to get up
discussions,
to
we've
date.
got all of the meeting notes. In the latest
Yep.
one, I usually have it pinned, but I'll pin the next one. That usually has like the latest status updates on things. But it's a good thing to point out because if we look at our README, it hasn't changed very much in quite a while, and I would personally like to see us update this like areas of exploration section to include all of the different working groups that we are working on right now, and linking to the places where we're really summarizing the current status. So yeah, definitely would be helpful. It'd be helpful if the stream was readability optimized. Yeah, that's a bigger question too. Is like um, Discord, while it's really easy for us to have a community here, it's not really great for leading these meetings. There's no accessibility features. The recording feature is me running OBS and then forgetting to like minimize something and like putting some uh, personal information in frame, like it's not great. So I definitely hear you. I would love to get some like closed captioning for our meeting, automatic, which we could also use to automatically generate some transcriptions for this thing. And then yeah, my screen sharing is not perfect either. I definitely could zoom in a little bit more, and definitely in the future, if I'm screen sharing, point that out if I'm not zoomed in enough, if it's not legible. So thanks for calling that out. Back to the summary stuff though. This is something I'd like to submit a PR for, is just to update this with like summaries, and then for working groups, keeping your own readmes up to date is I think the easiest way to start this. And then as far as the website goes, we can pull information from those places to give a better up to date thing.
Yeah, a Reader's Digest to understand what's being worked on in quick summary, so we can dig into it if there's anything that like stands out. Like, hey, yes, this is something we can absolutely work with. That would be extremely helpful for anybody who's brand new and isn't really sure where to start. I'm sure we're all familiar with jumping into Discords that have 800 channels, and you're just like, where do I even begin? Like,
Yeah, it's painful. I'm glad that you're calling this out. Thank you for, and that is something that like some of the working groups who have been around a little bit longer do try to do, right? Like we have a README that we want to basically hit those really quick points. Like, why does this group exist? Who's here? Like, who's a part of the group, so you know who you can reach out to. When do we meet? Having a working agreement is really important too. Like that answers those questions. When do we meet? Where do we? How do we share work? How often do we want to meet? Do we want to have a retro of our own? Do we want to have demo days? Like some folks might not want to do that, and some folks it might be critical to how they function. And so being able to answer all that on one real quick Reader's Digest, like you just said, it would change the whole game, make it a lot easier for folks to get. Robert, I'm actually creating that issue right now in the backlog just to update the README so we don't forget.
Perfect, thanks. Anything else people would like to see from us this year? New groups, different processes.
I mean, I guess just from the conceptual, like you were talking about earlier, like defining what the goals are. Um, when it comes to building a metaverse, like we were saying earlier, we want it to be decentralized, because, just as in the real world, one person shouldn't own everything. We don't need the whole metaverse being owned by Zuckerberg. So what we need is, um, I don't know, just like ways to think about like I love the idea of the avatars where you could have like the GLTFs doing assets that are not only cross platform but cross app, like something where I can buy this NFT sword in World of Warcraft and then I can take it into Skyrim, right? um, Something like that would be a very cool idea. Have your favorite t-shirt that was made by your favorite local artist who made it an NFT, and then suddenly you can wear it and show it off to people all across the world. um, I really like that. And having there be like a web portal, like is there any thoughts about the central hub of everything? Like is there going to be like a way to, like, how do we actually connect all of our metaverses together? Those are some of the questions that like I have that um I'm sure everybody understands their own project, but how do we make them come together? Is that like the interoperability group?
I think we have a couple of working groups. We have the identity working group, which talks about how to like make identities share between different things, and I think there's also one about federated communication and stellar. Where is it? Stellar mesh sort of thing.
Yeah, the constellation and stellar mesh
Constellation.
and traversal. Yeah, there's all these different things. They're not really formalize as working groups yet because we don't have the right participation and like poll for these things at the moment. But yeah, those are definitely topics that we should look into. There is one other group that's working on Metaverse Traversal, which is kind of associated with some of the things that you're talking about. And Evo, is that open? Can I just share the link to that?
It's yes, the next event is going to be open and posted. Meta Traversal 3 is going to be on January 13th. And then there's going to be a plenary that we are planning as more of a participatory event and unconference for the first week of March. So that is moving forward. Some of your demos previously on Traversal Between Worlds having been included in those sessions, and we've posted the videos to the last two. But that is less of a working group and more of a collaborative effort across teams. You are absolutely welcome to participate as a viewer for January 13th. And if you have specific talks that you think should be included for March, Meta Traversal is specifically on those portals, windows, and doors between worlds and how we move between worlds.
What's the best link for this? Is it just to share the Discord out,
There's
or?
Yeah, and metatraversal@gmail.com was registered, I believe, because of the next event will be posted on Eventbrite. Ben Irwin is the main organizer producer on that, and then I help with Neil Trevitt from NVIDIA and Terry Schussler, who is at T-Mobile. So that is an effort that we participate in, but we're not necessarily the primary organizers, and we welcome your participation. But yeah, we're going to try and move to something far more participatory for the March event.
I really want to make sure that we have some direct link for people, though.
Yeah. If I wanted to participate, I just need to know how to participate.
Yeah, I'm kind of
right. The Discord channel is going to be the best place for it. Now. It is not a public and open space for conversation at this time. It has been a curated series of events where different metaverse business leaders basically present what they're working on toward interoperability.
Cool.
Okay.
By the way, they released spaces in Canada now, so it's opening up slowly but surely for the rest of us. So that's cool.
Is OMI a 503c corporation, or are you guys an open group, or how are you guys structured? Just curious.
Open group and not a nonprofit by nature. So we are on Open Collective, but we are not a formal 501c3 in America. We work through others. So Open Collective is a fiscal sponsor, so donations can be received, but we don't have a formal designation.
Yeah, so we have this fiscal sponsor. We haven't used this yet, so I mean the budget is something that we have at our disposal for different things. We've talked about using some of it for like a prize to be offered through the WebXR hackathon coming up here pretty soon. So yeah, we do have a small budget to work with, and that's something that we can always talk about. But yeah, we've also talked about like what would this look like as a nonprofit, and it's interesting. It's also it kind of comes with some other more formal processes that we don't have in place, right? So right now we're pretty informal, but this budget allows us to at least have a little bit of money to play with for hosting or prizes or communications or marketing, whatever else.
I've got a question. Two quick things. Whilst we're updating the README, I think it would be awesome if we could also update the use of UTC on there as well. Just sort of adopt the use of UTC so that, people are not, constantly having to do the math of, okay, I'm in this place and, what the hell is that? symbol in terms of representing time. Yeah, UTC or all sorts of different acronyms which are confusing. So that was a quick first thing. The second thing is whilst I completely appreciate the sort of the broad approach here, which has manifested in working groups, I think there is also something to be said for the sort of the working. So the working groups are sort of broad but slow. I think there's also something to be said for sort of working narrow and sort of faster kind of thing. So I think it would be neat if we could have an environment, whether it's on GitHub or GitLab, wherever, a repository of sort of that breaks down or that people are able to sort of like link to projects that they're working on, say whether it's a game or sort of like whatever website that they're working on, that they're able to sort of experiment and sort of implement, whether it's the avatar stuff or the the actual traversability sort of interoperability aspects. I think that would be quite helpful and neat in just practically understanding, hey, I am working on this particular idea, and I would like to link it to this other person's thing or whatnot, especially as it pertains to like WebGL sort of GLTF implementations on the browser and sort of interoperability across browsers and stuff.
So,
If this already exists, I'm sorry, but I just could not find it on the on the GitHub. So if it does, please point it out to me, and I'll definitely look into it.
are you looking for like a faster sort of development group, or are you talking about a faster standards track?
I suppose, well, development which would then be sort of looking to implement some of the ideas in the standards, right? Because
Gotcha.
obviously, one of the conversations we've had so far is it would be nice to have some sort of WC3 or sort of interactions with Kronos, etc., in terms of standardizing stuff. But there's gonna be like to experiment, like you're gonna need to sort of practically like have different people's projects which they're highly motivated to pursue be independent and do in an open way, of course, do all that research, and then be able to feed that back into the sort of slower working group standards environment, if
Right.
that makes sense.
Yeah. So early on when we started this group, we decided that we were going to focus on the like broader sort of standards and protocols and sort of community side of things, and not build products themselves. So the code that is maintained within this repository is more, um, and I think this is outlined in our proposal process, I think. Yeah, I think that's in here. I can look for it in a sec. But anyways, we have some code in here, but they're all like reference implementations and tooling for the standards that we develop here. For development on the actual like different platforms and things like that, that's who a lot of our members are. So like I'm working on one of those platforms at Element. It's called Third Room. We have the Webverse folks here. We have Nova's been working on a project called Constellation. We have, I don't know, a wide variety of people working on this in open and closed projects. And so OMI is kind of staying out of that on purpose. But we do have like ways that you can kind of advertise your project during our meetings. Just basically submit a request for participation. You just open up a new issue, call for participation, and you can it doesn't necessarily have to be a new community group. Just putting it out there so that we can get it on the agenda and say like, hey, here's another open source or project in general that like represents our group's values and things like that. So sorry, that's kind of a
Also,
non-answer.
well, no, I also want to add like, you can like there are channels available in the Discord. Like OMI isn't setting out to create products, for example, right? Like because OMI doesn't want to compete with the very people who are making OMI in the first place. That's not what we set out to do. And we also don't want OMI to turn into the very thing that we're fighting, which is one thing owning it all, right? So there are channels that like you can share, like, hey, I need help with this, or hey, like, can we like skunkwork style like hack this together? That is absolutely encouraged, and you can do it in the Angel channels. You can do it in other groups that are a part of this, like Robert just said. There's a lot of other groups that do that stuff. The second thing I want to add though is um, we only are as slow as we are based on how many participants there are. So if you want to move fast and break things, like get involved in any of the working groups. This goes for everybody. Like we can only move as fast as we can based on how people showing up and doing stuff, right? Like we don't want to have a bunch of bottlenecks. So there is a lot of room for growth and improvement. Um, Getting involved in the GLTF group, if there were 5 times as many people, we could probably experiment a lot quicker. And you're also going to see that experimentation happen a lot quicker, anyways, as we get comfortable working together. So yeah, I think you'll see it move faster either way, and it really just depends on participation. Um, Hopefully that explains it too.
This is exciting. I see lots of great faces in the room here. So hopefully something is lighting up for some of you, and feel free to just come back to us. Obviously, there's a lot of room for growth here. I'm recognizing where each of our co-chairs is giving a lot of time right now and probably need to delegate new things to new people. And we probably will need to grow from 3 chairs to 5 chairs or find a different way to organize some of our leadership so that we can not be a bottleneck in any way. I personally don't want to be a bottleneck for any of your
Yeah, I
development.
don't either.
And I want to thank you for those of you who are really, consistently sticking with us and pushing back and seeing where you can participate. Reach out. Thank you for making that happen. And thank you for speaking into where, we're hitting our capacities here.
I had a quick question for you, just because I'm learning a lot more about your group. Obviously, metaverse is an overused or well-used term, right? Almost like an adjective, if you will. And do you guys believe in like the metaverse being the future web, but with interconnected virtual worlds for both commerce and also for social? Or are you guys looking to create standards that allow everyone to build like a Decentraland, a Roblox, and try to use the same standards where if I wanted to move from one of those applications to another, that they would work? Because there's a big differentiating factor between the two. And I was just curious on kind of
Yeah.
how you guys view that.
Yeah, we are not primarily a standards making body, but we participate with them. And there are many great standards making bodies. I see that Christine Perry is here in the room, and she gave a great talk at the last Metaversal about all of the different standards groups that this current metaverse, as we know it, touches. And there are so many. We're not even sitting with all of those groups yet, much less, guiding or leading most of them. So the working groups that are here, some of them do roll up to spec groups, but not all. And Robert, do you want to speak a little bit more to that and how that works?
Um, yeah, and going back to the original sort of question about like where we kind of see the metaverse, or at least how are we defining the metaverse? Like we have a lot of different people with a lot of different opinions in here, so it's not fair to just say like this is the one thing. But uh, the the things that we have settled on are like bridging virtual worlds versus trying to come up with the end all be all standard for everything to follow. We are creating standards, but we're not like trying to say this is the one standard, this is the only way to do things. We're kind of agreeing to collaborate together on different pieces. And you know, not every platform is necessarily going to accept all of them, and that's okay. If we have bridged the gaps in some of the 3D content, but maybe not so much in some of the other areas, that's okay. We're just trying to find places where we can work together and avoid a lot of these closed ecosystems as much as we can. So in that way, I don't know if that's more towards your first or your second. It's kind of somewhere in the middle there, I guess. But yeah, if you want to propose more groups, we have a clear proposal process outlined here, and you can kind of read that and submit a new issue and open up a new working group that way. Liam, were you going to say something?
Oh, I was just gonna little comment like web tech or network protocols can be used both on a single like internet scale or it could be used on like individual intranets. Whether or not like the tech we build is used for a single metaverse or many interconnected metaverses, I don't think it's something we have to answer right now.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, I see people are having a drop, so we're at time. And thank you all for coming. It's really great to hear from new voices here, and we will see you next week. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks. This was great.